Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever felt like you were living your life on autopilot, just spinning through a mental narrative of your to-do list, your worries, and your regrets? Or maybe you have had those rare, beautiful moments where the noise shuts off and you feel completely, profoundly present in the world. We often think of these as just different moods, but what if they were actually biological states driven by specific switches in your brain? Today we are looking at a fascinating new framework that suggests our sense of self is not one solid thing but a dynamic continuum between two very different operating systems. The big idea here is that your mind oscillates between two main ways of being. First, you have the reflective self. This is the inner monologue that loves to tell stories about who you are, what happened to you yesterday, and what you need to do tomorrow. It is anchored in a part of the brain called the default mode network. Think of this network as the office manager of your brain. It is obsessed with scheduling, daydreaming about the future, and analyzing the past. When the office manager, is running the show, it is great for planning and identity, but it can also be a source of stress and self-criticism. Then there is the experiential self. This version of you is not interested in stories or planning. It is purely focused on the sensory now. It is your embodied sense of being a living, breathing creature in this exact moment. Instead of the office manager, this state is run by the Salience network. This network acts like a high-speed filter, constantly scanning your internal bodily sensations and the external world to figure out what actually matters right now. Many people talk about this in spiritual or meditative terms. But this paper argues that it is actually a grounded biological process. When you shift from the reflective self to the experiential self, you are essentially turning down the volume on those high-level, abstract thoughts and turning up the volume on your raw physical experience. It is the difference between worrying about whether you look good in a photo and being so immersed in the warmth of the sun and the feeling of the grass under your feet that you completely forget to worry about yourself at all. This transition is not just magic, it is linked to how our brains shift their priorities in the reflective mode. Your brain is so busy with its internal story that it essentially ignores a lot of the subtle signals coming from your body and the environment. It thinks it already knows what is happening based on its internal models. But in the experiential mode, your brain becomes more open to these bottom-up signals. It stops trying to force the world to fit its preconceived narrative and instead lets the sensory input take the lead. This sounds like a major shift, and it can be. We often see this happen during meditation or in those moments of awe when you stare at a massive mountain or a breathtaking sunset. You get that feeling of ego dissolution or that sense that the boundaries between you and the rest of the world are getting porous. The paper suggests this is not an anomaly. It is just your brain flipping the switch from the narrative office manager over to the experiential salience-focused mode. Now, why does this matter for you? Well, it suggests that our mental health and even our personality traits might depend on how easily we can move between these two states. Some people live almost entirely in their own heads, trapped in the reflective, narrative, and often anxious mode. Others, through practices like mindfulness, may have trained their brains to access that experiential state more easily. By training the brain, you become better at hitting that pause button on the self-critical chatter. Of course, the researchers are careful to point out that this is not one size fits all. If you are someone who struggles with chronic anxiety or a history of trauma, your brain might be stuck in a state of hypervigilance, where the salience network is constantly flagging everything as a potential threat. In those cases, trying to force your attention inwards and into your body can sometimes be overwhelming rather than relaxing. This is a very important limitation to keep in mind. Just because a state feels deep or profound does not mean it is always the right goal for everyone at every time. There is also the question of whether this is just a state we can flip into or if it is a personality trait. The paper points to traits like openness to experience and absorption, which are basically your natural tendency to get completely lost in a book, a piece of music, or a task. It seems like some people are just wired to have easier access to that experiential, immersive state. But the exciting part is the potential for training, even if you are naturally a very narrative, reflective thinker. You might be able to develop the skills to drop into the experiential state when you need a break from your own internal noise. I think the real beauty of this framework is how it bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. You have philosophers and meditators talking about letting go of the ego, and now we have neuroscientists who can actually show us which brain networks are doing the heavy lifting when we do that. It takes the mystery out of it, but it does not take the meaning out. If we understand that the reflective self is just a tool, then we can start to view it as a tool that we can put down. We do not have to be the office manager 24 hours a day. Future research will likely look at how we can use this to help with things like depression or even just day-to-day burnout. Imagine being able to recognize when you are stuck in that endless, high-pressure narrative loop and having a toolkit to effectively shift your brain into a more grounded and more balanced experiential state. So next time you are feeling trapped in your own head, spiraling over your to-do list or playing back a conversation from 3 years ago, remember that you are just experiencing a surge of the reflective self. You have a built-in exit strategy. Focus on your heartbeat, your breathing of your feet on the ground. You are not trying to stop thinking. You're just inviting your Salience network to take the driver's seat for a while. What do you think? Do you feel like you are naturally more of a reflective, story-based thinker, or are you someone who finds it easy to just exist in the moment? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the architecture of the self, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the Mind Lab for more deep dives into how your brain actually works. We really appreciate you spending your time here with us. Thanks for watching and stay curious.